Hello, everyone. We are now recording. I'm just getting everything going for our live stream on Facebook, and then we will get going. Thank you, everyone that has thus far shown up. Keep in mind that the Q&A button is open and available to you all. It's typically right there at the bottom of your screen. And feel free to ask your questions throughout the session, and we will incorporate your questions into the session. Okay, if you all, and then feel free, also we are live, as I said, we're live streaming it through our Facebook Live. Feel free to share that with your friends and family on your own pages, but keep in mind that we're not monitoring those pages for Q&A questions. We just don't have the capacity to do that. Once we Okay, let's get started. Well, I want to take a moment to introduce you all to the one of the final sessions of our Living Sickle Smart series. This session is so incredibly important. I've been looking forward to it for weeks, and I could not think of a better group of people to be sitting here with. First and foremost, we want to say special thanks to our partners and sponsors who have helped to make this series possible. Our Be the Match, Bluebird Bio, and Novartis, all of whom are partners in this project and this work. Just so that you know, if this is your first time joining us, or if you've joined us for our Sickle Smart sessions before, you can view previous and future sessions. Typically, you can go through our website, but it's only going to steer you to our YouTube channel. So I'm just going to tell you, go straight to our YouTube channel, and you can see all of our previous videos, as well as if you be sure to become a follower, you can set it up so you can get notifications when we've posted new sessions. Also, go to our Eventbrite channel where you probably signed up or RSVP'd for this session. And if you follow us there, you will get notifications whenever we are You'll get notifications whenever we are planning a new session as well, so that you can join us when it's live. You can, on both YouTube and Eventbrite, you can search for us under Sickle Cell MN or Sickle Cell Foundation of Minnesota. Just a quick reminder from Be the Match, they have their Sickle Cell Warrior resource package. I got mine, my son got his. You can order your free package at sicklecellconnect.com. Order one for yourself. If you are a provider, you can share this resource with your patients, and we hope that you do. It's a wonderful way to get connected to learning more about transplant and the resources that come with being a person who is even considering. They're great for answering questions. They have other things that they are doing with the sickle cell community that we are very proud and appreciative of. So check them out. Today's session, as I said, I am so very excited. We've got a number of guests here. This is our live warrior panel, Smiling Through the Pain. We're going to talk about what's in your toolbox, talk about coping, and let me stop sharing. I always tell people that this is live, and live TV gets a live ray. So when mistakes happen, they happen, but we roll with the punches. Some things happen a little bit slower, some things happen out of order, but we make it work. And so without further ado, I want to introduce you to our esteemed panelists that we have this evening. And I am going to start with, where's my document? There we go. I'm going to start with introducing Ed Jenkins. Ed, would you wave at the people so they know who I'm talking about? So Ed has sickle cell disease. He is 45 years old, living with hemoglobin SC disease, and he is passionate about sharing his story of living with the disease. He believes his determination, God's intervention, and his supportive family helps him rise above sickle cell complications. He's spoken about sickle cell at several events and is invited annually to speak to University of Minnesota first-year medical students. Ed has a BFA in acting, that's so cool, and a master's in recreation management. For over 20 years, he has developed entertaining learning experiences for kids and families. Ed currently is the Children's Ministry Director at Excelsior Covenant Church in Excelsior, Minnesota, and you'll hear from him tonight. Next on the list is Miss Dima Hendricks. In addition, Dima, you waving? In addition to being a wife and mother and sickle cell survivor, Dima Hendricks is an accomplished pageant aficionado. Dima has several pageants under her belt, including Miss Black Dorchester, USA, Miss Black Dorchester, USA, Miss Black Massachusetts, and Mrs. Black Massachusetts International. Okay. When Dima is not rocking the crown, you can find her giving back to the sickle cell community as a patient advocate. And then we have Kelly Saunders. Kelly, wave at the people. As a child of a mother who lived with sickle cell disease, Kelly saw the impact of this painful and devastating disease up close. As a child caregiver, his life became personally impacted in ways that continue to reveal itself even today. Through deep reflection and reconnecting with the sickle cell community, Kelly now shares his unique perspectives with others, giving valuable insight into the role of child and adult caregivers to a parent living with sickle cell disease. And then our last but not least panelist is Sarai Santiago. Everybody knows Sarai. She lives with sickle cell disease. Oh, and I failed to tell the other ages of everybody else. Sarai is 34 years old, living with sickle cell type SS. Sarai is not only a sickle cell champion and SCDAA trained community health worker, she is also a fierce advocate for other warriors through the Bronx community in New York. Sarai too is a pageant winner and represents with pride every piece of her ethnicity, and I love it. In doing that, she continues to advocate for sickle cell. I know I'm going to mess this word up, and you can correct me, Sarai. Promesa for Puerto Rico Free Black Lives.
Promesa.
Yep, I'm not. You know that. I might not get that right. Black Lives Matter for social justice, health equity in the sickle cell community, and domestic violence. I love it. And then last but not least, and I don't see her picture up, is Miss Velvet Brown. Velvet, you on camera, where you at? Velvet is the founder and chairperson of Supporters of Families with Sickle Cell Disease. Supporters is a community-based Oklahoma nonprofit organization that has assisted families living with sickle cell disease since 2004. Velvet,
can you guys hear me?
Oh, I can hear you. Okay.
Yes. Okay. My picture's on there.
Okay, I see it now. Velvet is the wife of Pastor Jeremiah Sr. and mother of 4 children, one of whom was diagnosed with sickle cell disease in 2004. Miss Velvet is a pioneering executive, a social worker, and a community activist who fuses profound cultural sensitivity and teamwork with a heart of compassion. She is passionate about leadership, social justice, dignity, and worth of a person. She knows the importance of human relationships, integrity, and competence for individuals within the disability communities. So I want to welcome everyone today. I am so excited about this discussion. Velvet and I will be co-hosting this panel, but I'm going to start by turning it over to Velvet. But before I do, just a reminder for those of you who have joined us that you can add your Q&A questions throughout the session, and we will incorporate them into the discussion. If you are watching us live on Facebook, please keep in mind that we are not monitoring the comment threads. And so you would have had to you would have had to RSVP to be an attendee so that we can see your questions in Q&A, because we will not see them on Facebook. All right. So I'm turning it over to Velvet. Let's get this party started.
All right, everybody, how is everyone doing? Just give me a thumbs up and clap something. I am so happy to be here. I want to thank my, I call it my sister friend, Ray, and co-laborer in the sickle cell community for number one, thinking of me and inviting me to co-host this session with her. I am excited to have all our panel and our guests here on Facebook and on Zoom. We are going to get into some of these questions, and we want to be honest and transparent. I believe that is the way that you truly help people understand the journey of sickle cell. As Ray said, I am a mother of a 17-year-old who lives with SCD. And so I can only imagine, I know my journey, but I can only imagine our panel's journey. And so I am looking forward to hearing your answers and letting us all participate in this great session. So we're gonna get started. And the first question that we'll start with is, what does living well with sickle cell mean to you? And so I don't know who wants to take it first. I'll start with Sarah.
Living well with sickle cell. It's, it has a little ups and downs in between. And also to stay healthy, as I usually do. And basically I have my downs that I be in pain and so much more. But living well, basically staying positive, say my affirmations, say prayers, especially I'm spiritual, I say prayers and so much more. So that's living well with sickle cell. Especially I like to dance. So dancing is my healing. It's a healing tool for me. And with the cultural music that I dance to, bomba is healing, because it's communication between the dance and drummer also. So that's my healing, living well with sickle cell, to stay hydrated, stay healthy. And also, like, I have days that I have pains, but I get through it as possible. That's the question. If you like to ask, that's much better.
Okay, thank you. Ed, what would you say was your definition of living well with sickle cell?
Wow. And first I want to say hello, everybody. So I'm really honored to be here tonight. I think this is going to be a great conversation. I think for me, I think the definition of living well is, I would say, is making a really almost like a promise to yourself, some type of promise or commitment to yourself. Because I mean, there's all different factors of sickle cell. There's the physical challenges, obviously, and needing to be healthy, needing to be able to find the medical care you need when you need it. So there's that level. There's the emotional health. There's the spiritual health. There's so many times living, in my journey where, sickle cell not only hits you physically, but you also hits your heart. Just you are down, you're depressed, you're disappointed, you're frustrated, angry. And so if you focus on one of those things and not the other, you could, it could be overwhelming. So I think that living with sickle cell starts with that commitment to yourself and saying, who do I want to be? How do I want to live? And also, like, for me personally, I made a commitment when I was really young, saying I was not going to let sickle cell define my life or control my life. It's a part of it, It's a very active part of my life, but I'm not going to be what defines me or limits me. And so, and when I'm able to have that, then I think that sets me on the right path to living well, physically, emotionally, and all those things.
Thank you so much for that answer. Dima,
Oh,
did I
hello.
say it, Perez?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for having me. Ed eloquently articulated everything that is on the wellness wheel. He talked about our physical well-beings, our spiritual well-being, and our lifestyle, but also it's very important to incorporate our purpose. Sometimes people with sickle cell, we are wrapped around the disease, and sometimes our passion, our focus, our purpose in life is on the back burner because we're so busy taking care of ourselves. So making sure that our purpose, our mental well-being, our lifestyle, our physicality is in check. And just like everyone else, we need to make sure that we're getting the proper exercise, we're eating well, we are trying to manage our stress level and being hydrated. And those are pivotal things that we need to do to live well with sickle cell disease.
And so, Kelly, I know your perspective will probably be very different because you were a caregiver to someone. So can you tell me from the caregiver perspective, what is it to live well caring for someone with sickle cell?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone. I really love the stories, and thank you for sharing. I grew up with a parent with sickle cell anemia, and the unbelievable strength that my mom had was passed on to me to a point where I utilized that throughout my whole life. So to see her go through her pain and to just smile through it was, to me, motivation to carry on with my physical being, because I don't have the disease. So I didn't know physically what she was going through, but emotionally, I can definitely tell that it really took a toll on her. However, she kept her spiritual guidance. She kept her family support. All of these things, living with sickle cell, is tools that you need to, to survive and to push on. So that's my whole take on it.
Well, I have a question because I think that it's so important to get the different perspectives, right? Because when we say living well with sickle cell disease, yes, we are absolutely unequivocally talking about those who are living with the disease in their body. But you also have to live well as a person who lives with or around someone who has sickle cell disease, right? And how that impacts you. That's why the title of this is Smiling Through the Pain. It's a painful experience. We recognize that. So you, Kelly, as a now adult child that watched your mother go through this, Velvet, myself, who are caregivers of a child or young adult, in my case, that lives with sickle cell, our perspectives too are a little bit different. So Velvet, I'm curious from your perspective, because I'm sure that we have some caregivers on tonight. What does living well with sickle cell mean to you?
I think for me, living well is about self-care that most of us don't do. Let's just be honest. We don't get around to self-care. But the truthness of it is that self-care allows you the opportunity to refuel, to keep moving forward. And it's important, I always ask myself, have you taken time this month to kind of woosah? Because it is a journey. It is very difficult. And if you are not careful, you can find yourself in very different types of moods. I don't think people understand that caregivers, they get depressed, they get frustrated, they sometimes they have to pull away. As a social worker, I used to work hospice all the time. And the one thing I used to tell families is you got to get out. I don't care if you go down the street, take a walk around the block, walk around your house 3-4 times, get some fresh air. But you have to remove yourself sometimes from a situation just to breathe. And so I think one of the biggest things that I have really had to do, especially since the pandemic made things very different for our community, for patients, for caregivers, for families, and it intensified what people were already feeling. And so part of that was, how do I, within the pandemic, take self-care? And that was a question that was very difficult. Sometimes I still find it hard to answer that question. But I think in order to live well, one of the key things you have to do is have self-care.
I think that's a really important piece, because I think that no matter who you are, whether you are the warrior who's living with sickle cell, whether you are a caregiver, whether you are a child of the warrior, you know, there's something about the Black community. Like, let's just put it on the table. There's something about the Black community that says our strength is in not admitting when we're weak. Like, and as I get closer to turning 50 years old, I really reflect upon that, and I'm like, I don't, that doesn't feel healthy anymore, right? The reality is that I have these weak moments, but that doesn't make me weak. So even as a caregiver of a child, you know, he's 25 now, so raising him, what I realized is that I not only had to figure out what living well was for him, but it took me years to really recognize that it was okay for me to ask myself, what does living well with sickle cell mean for me as well? Because I can't pour from an empty cup. Now, there was times that I did, but it was barely droplets. And so it is such an important piece of what we do, that self-care. I think we are all, particularly across the Black community, this has been a 2 years like no other, right? And we are learning, what does it mean to not live a selfish life, but live but have self-care in spite of our selflessness, right? And how do we not carry that baggage with us in a way that impacts our resiliency and our desire to keep pressing forward? I'm going to add a comment really quick, because there's a couple of people that may have gotten the wrong link that are showing up. And I'm just, if you get removed, what I need you to do is go to the link that will allow you to register as an attendee. I will put it in the chat before I remove you, but I will be removing you in about 2 minutes. All right. And we love you, and we really want you to re-register as an attendee. All right. So I'll put that in there now. Kelly, I see your hand up, and then go ahead, Velvet.
Yes, thank you, Velvet, for sharing that. I definitely agree with the self-care. Just taking care of a parent with sickle cell was very difficult as a child. I remember times when I used to go into the room after, she had one of her sickle cell episodes, and she was screaming to the top of her lungs, and I didn't know what to do at 11, 12 years old. And, during that time, calling 911, being home alone, and all this other stuff, like, it took an emotional toll on me. And, when she passed away, my family didn't seek out mental health therapy or anything. It was like, he's surrounded by family, we can get through it, that type of thing. But at the same time, I'm going from Miami to Minnesota, and that's a culture shock within itself. So I was dealing with a lot of that stuff, holding it in. I was an introvert for a long time. It took me a long time to open up about, my experience and my feelings and all this other stuff that I was dealing with. So having self-care is like, not just the physical, but just like mental checkups as well. You know what I'm saying? Because for the caregivers, it is an emotional toll, because you're looking at your loved one, and is like really nothing you can do, and is hard, you know what I'm saying? And we have to understand that it's not our fault, and this motivated me to, go to the Marine Corps, become a EMT firefighter, and help people in that capacity. So I definitely believe in the self-care is a powerful thing.
Okay, that is wonderful. The next question that I would love to get some feedback on is, what does it mean to have a healthy support system through the pediatric system and or the adult system? What would you consider healthy characteristics of support? Who wants to start?
I can do that.
All
I
right,
can start.
Ed.
I feel like I grew up in the Milwaukee area, and I felt like we got a lot of great support at the Children's Hospital in Milwaukee. They had a sickle cell clinic there, and they really helped my parents and me really learn about the disease, and also just everything about the different stages of when you're a young child, and then when you're a teenager, and things like that. So I think some of the characteristics are, I think people who are knowledgeable about sickle cell. I think people who have compassion, even if they don't know everything in and outs. They have compassion for what you're going through. I think any provider that helps you to become empowered and to be to develop your own sense of agency, and so that you're able to, wherever you are, whatever city or state you live in, that you're able to speak for yourself in a way, and speak for your needs. I know that when I was in Milwaukee, yeah, they're really big on like, Ed, when you get older, you're going to have to take care of yourself. And so you're going to have to speak and talk to these doctors and ask them questions. And, they really instill that sense of like empowerment for me as a kid and as I was growing up. And I think that's, like I said, I think that's really helpful for me even today when I go to the clinics and things like that. I feel like I have that sense of empowerment. Yeah.
I think that is so important. That is so important. Who wants to go next?
I can take the question. It's funny that you asked this question. It's a part of this discussion today, because yesterday I ran into pediatric nurse that used to take care of me at a kickboxing class. And it was so amazing to see her. And she was just, after the class, we sat down for about 45 minutes and just talking about life and see how each other was doing. But to answer your question, I feel that the best part of the care is when a nurse or a healthcare provider becomes a member of the family. She just really felt like she was a part of the family, and I cherish those relationships to this day.
So was that someone, you said in pediatrics, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so one of the things that I always consider is that as a child born into sickle cell, born into a life of pain, you are born into a medical system. You are nearly medicalized from birth, right? And it is, and when I worked in the clinical setting, one of the things that I really wanted the providers to understand is that these children don't know a life without having a medical provider. You are an extension of their family, whether medical school taught you to have these boundaries or not. Life didn't teach them to have that boundary. And so it is a one-sided perspective to keep trying to create this fictional boundary with children who, from the time that they were first hospitalized, saw your faces. There's a heartfelt connection. They don't know that you represent something outside of an immediate family. And so incorporating that relationship into how you care for that warrior is so important, because you play the role, just like a teacher plays the role of helping to shape that child, so does that provider, not just to shape that disease, but you're also impact the shaping of their lives, the way that they think about the disease, the way that they feel about the disease, the way that they talk about the disease. Everyone in the community and people who have joined us before for Sickle Smart know, when I say community, I do not only mean that individuals living with the disease and caregivers. I also mean those who have a stake in the outcomes of this disease, because otherwise we risk developing a mindset of doctors, teachers, social workers are on the outside looking in at us. We need you to be on the inside with us, right? And so when we say community, there's a sense of responsibility that comes when you are part of a community versus when you're just looking in at the community. So we want to make that clear, right? But I also want to talk about, you all talked about really strong individuals in the medical setting that impacted your lives even to this day. But what about when you don't have access to a provider that is empathetic, that is knowledgeable and skilled? What about when you are a single parent or a married couple who is caregiving almost as a single person with little or no support? Let's talk about some of this hard stuff, right? How do you develop a support system that may not be what someone else's is, but is something that is right for you and your situation?
I don't know if anybody wants to go for it. I'll go for it. I would just say, yeah, I 100% agree with you, what you said, Ray. When you were talking about people like the providers, the nurses I had, it was like family. I mean, it was such a community. And really, to be honest, when I was a kid, I had so many pain situations and complications. I mean, they saved my life, just with some things that happened. And so I think, that's the goal, is to have providers that feel like you resonate with. But to be honest, I haven't had every doctor in my life to be that way. I have not had every nurse, every emergency room visit to be that way. And so my encouragement is that if you haven't found that kind of gelling or that kind of provider that you feel like really gets you, keep trying to find that. Don't give up. And I think that there's hope out there. There are people out there that you can connect with that will support you and understand. Even being a part of this Zoom panel discussion right now, I think is really important. And so I would say encourage you to don't get tired and decide I'm never going to try to look again because I had this run in with this doctor. Don't let that one situation or 3 or 4 situations stop you from finding the care or the provider you need, because we all have gone through it. I have gone through it. And I know in my future, I may go through it again, having providers who don't get it. But I don't want that to stop me,
That's excellent. I always say, you have bad experiences at Target, at Walmart, at the gas station, at the grocery store. You don't stop going to the grocery store. You don't stop getting them groceries and that gas. You go to a different one, right? So, okay, Velvet, go ahead.
I also think that we have to begin to look outside of our box. Sometimes we can get stuck in a box when we are in sickle cell or living with sickle cell or being a caregiver or parent, and we just think all the answers are right in the box. but there's a whole lot of answers outside the box. You just have to be willing to dig a little. And so, you know, I always encourage parents because I can remember when we first found out about my son's Jeremiah's diagnosis. My husband didn't do a lot, for real. That was just the truth. And it wasn't that he didn't care. I think that he just was trying to process this. Men process things differently. And so he was trying to process, you know, this is my son. How do I address this? Men are fixers. They wanted to fix it. He couldn't fix this. So I think that we have to do what we can do as the person that is caring for the individual and begin to just look outside the box, whether that's the church, whether that's the school, whether that's the PTA, whether that's, I mean, there are so many other places that you can begin to look and find support systems, whether that's a mommy and me class, or that's a, you know, any of these types of things that that you're able to access to begin to see how do you build your special community. It's not that you eliminate your family. I tell people that all the time because family tend to come around sooner or later. It may be later than sooner, but in the meantime, you begin to build something where you have some type of outlet to be able to connect so you don't find yourself isolated to the point where you break. So that is so important.
I like that. Getting outside the box. That is so, so important. Kelly, I'm gonna have you go next, and then I want to add one more thing.
Sorry, I didn't lower my hand.
Oh, okay. No, I just wanted to circle back because when you say, you know, going outside the box, sometimes we assign this responsibility to people who don't have the tools to be that, at least not in that moment. And sometimes we set ourselves up for disappointment by continuing to expect something from someone at a pace or at a level that they just have not arrived at yet. And for some, they may never arrive, right? You know, working in the clinical setting introduced me to a lot of different family scenarios. And the reality is that it's very difficult for people who, number one, I don't know about anybody else, but did anybody have a warning that they were going to end up living with sickle cell disease or their child was going to live, right? So you can't just prepare for that. Now, sir, oh, wait a minute. You did? I want to hear more about that, Saray.
First of all, when I was born, doctors told my parents that I'm not going to live longer. And it was very devastated because I was their miracle child. So, you know, my parents were from Puerto Rico, you know, because since they were here in the 80s, the late 80s, and they didn't have much resources. They didn't know my parents have sickle cell trait. So it was a very, very complicated situation that the doctors told my parents that how they're going to take care of me and this and that, how I'm going to live my teen years and my adulthoods. I know I have a little bit ups and downs when I was a child, missing school all week, missing school every day because my sickle cell episodes, getting surgeries, spleen removal. And also through the teen years too, that I be getting crisis in classes here and there, go to the Montefiore medical room in the school because the school has a little clinic there. So I use the school's clinic most of the time to get dehydrated and most of the things. And I had a great doctor who was a great support system, was Dr. Wong. She makes sure that everything, especially when hydroxyurea came out in 1998, she makes sure that I was one of the panelists there. So it worked out for me great and still work out for me to today's day. So I have a long life expansion. People say I won't live till I was 20. People say I don't live until I'm 30 and I'm 34 right now. It's a miracle that God puts me in this earth for a reason, is to work with people with sickle cell, help the youth out, help the kids out. Because I didn't have everything growing up as a child with sickle cell, because we have to get resources from outside and other things for me. So, you know, my childhood was a little bit complicated here and there. I was homeschooled and so much more, but I made it throughout, and I graduated high school, graduated college, and got my degrees and so much for, and also my ministry stuff too that I have. So I give thanks to the higher power, that's God, for keeping me, you know, alive and well. Hopefully I'll get to live 40, 50, 60, 70, whatever God's decided to do, until it's time for me to go home and be with him. So that's all I can say.
I love that, because that's a sense of determination. That is in spite of, right? It's not, you know, it's no matter what's being thrown at you, because you have that made up mind, right? And because none of us received a manual, right, that told us how to do this, that's the ability to develop that mindset. For some, that mindset came very early on in life. For others, that mindset came much later in life. And for others, they're still struggling to find that mindset, right? I recognize that there could be people watching us right now who don't feel like they can go on, who don't feel like they have a support system, who has tried over and over and over again to find providers that actually care, who will listen to them, who understand the pain without having to live in the pain, that they have an empathy for it. And that's not easy to find. And you're ready to throw in the towel, because it's like, how many more times you want me to try? And how many more people you want me to give a chance, because it's hurting me? And I take nothing away from that. Those are the experiences that make living with sickle cell disease that much more difficult. And so what we hope, and one of the things that Velvet said, is what we hope is that through having conversations like this with you, that we can explore what are different ways to find self-care and support system, but that they go together. And if your support system isn't as strong as you'd like it to be, what does that self-care look like, so that you can maintain your strength and your resiliency until those right people come to give you that support system. Anybody want to add to that?
I can add something. When I was a kid, I loved playing video games, and I remember, you know, working really hard and getting to that next level. And once I did, I would spend all day maybe working on this level. And once I did, I would feel so proud of myself. Said, "Wow, I did it! I got through it. I got to that next level." And I remember when I was like, I was a little concerned when I'd turn off the video game, you know, and I'm like, oh, but can I get back there? And I always knew if I did it once, I could do it again. And I remember that, and I say that now about sickle cell, is that there is going to be struggle, you know, there is going to be discouragement, there's going to be that. But once I can overcome that discouragement or that struggle, like there's times when the pain is so intense, but I know afterwards I survived it. I can, you know what, if I can do that, I know I can get to the next level. I know that I can get through whatever is going to come in my way. And so I want to encourage people that if you are going through sickle cell, or you're a caregiver of someone with sickle cell, and you've gone through the battle and you have gone and you've seen the other side, you've passed through that, you can do that continually. You know, it's that you have the ability now, the determination. If you can get through that, whatever that struggle was, you can get through to the other side of wherever you need to go, you know. And I think that, you know, finding the right people, yes, I mean, you'll be able to do that. If you can go through the sickle cell crisis and you can become victorious, you can find someone to watch your kids. You know, it will happen. You know, and same thing when it comes to self-care, that mindset of discouragement. I remember I've talked to people saying, you know, I feel like I can't keep a job, or I feel like it's so hard, and I understand that. But if you can go through it and you can get to the other side, you can do it. It's in you. It's you've earned your stripes through that, you know. And so I just want to encourage people that yes, that you can achieve what you want to achieve, even through the midst of conflict.
Kelly, I'm curious, as a child, you know, was there and I feel like I kind of know the answer to this because I think it's the typical scenario, but, you know, did anyone recognize the impact that having a mother who lived with sickle cell disease, the impact that that was having on you and your siblings?
You know, no, and at the time, you know, back in the day, you know, sickle cell wasn't, you know, as known back in the day. So people were looking at me and my brother and sister like we was just a normal family. You know, my mother did have, you know, other disabilities, but my family were the only ones who knew like the devastation that, you know, she was going through and what we were going through. And you know, this seeing her just go through all of the pain and her screaming and all this other stuff, and to come out on the other side, like what Ed was talking about, and to see her smile and just embrace her family, her kids, that is what drove her to continue on, is her children. So it's like getting through her sickle cell crisis was very hard, but the outcome of her getting through it, being with her kids at home, and we had this thing of watching movies, and watching movies was a thing to escape from our reality, you know, to be there in the same room to enjoy a movie was the simple thing that got us through our hard times. And today, I wish we had those resources for sickle cell back in the day, because I mean, even the Sickle Cell Foundation, this Sickle Cell Foundation is unbelievable. Like, if I would have known that we had this back when I was younger, I would have reached out to you all as a child, you know, because I knew that my mom was going through all these issues, and I wish I had the resource to reach out. And, you know, it's a great experience being a part of this foundation. So, yeah.
Ray, I think that one of the things that I heard, you know, I was like to kind of mirror back what I heard, really is about, you know, the ability to understand that you can get to the other side. Mm-hmm. And I think right there is where we have yet to really emphasize that you can get to the other side, because so many times all people see is what's right in front of them. So when we're going through it, that's all we see, because we have no forevision. Our vision hasn't taken us beyond where we are right now. And in the community, I think for many people, that's a huge thing. You know, one of the things I used to talk about to people is like, we would tell people sickle cell patients are not lazy. They don't just flake out on you. They don't, you know, these things that were really myths and are really myths within our community, because you don't understand the culture of the disease. And until we can understand disease culture, it's hard to place what actually is going on with people. And so I think that having the ability for people to understand you can actually get to the other side, but not just understand that, let me help you get to the other side. That's where it is right there. Go ahead.
Good. I love that. Keep going. I love it. You went mute. And then Dima.
No, I was gonna say, I was letting Dima speak. Go ahead.
And sometimes sickle cell warriors, sometimes we don't identify what the other side looks like. I think that may be an issue in our community. Because even, you know, we're in pain so much. Well, I'm going to speak for myself, Ed, and the other panelists can kind of jump in and, you know, let me know correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been in pain so much that sometimes I don't even see the accomplishments or someone has to read my bio back to me, or someone has to say, wait, you have a degree on your wall. Like, sometimes it's hard to see what the other side looks like sometimes.
But you also, in your words, one of the things that you that stands out to me is that when times are good, you had goals for yourself, right? It wasn't as much, you allowed your body to rest. And I'm sure we warriors out there, you're still learning when to let your body rest, right? However, you gave yourself something to hold on to in purpose in life. So sometimes what my heart breaks is for those who either did not have the pathways or did not have access to, or did not identify their own personal abilities in a way that allowed them to create things that gave them purpose in life. And if that's you, that's out there listening, and you don't feel like your life has purpose, probably the number one thing that I would encourage you to do going into this new year is to reflect upon what are the things that make you smile, who are the people that make you smile, and do more of that with more of them, right? If you don't have access to a lot of that, find what piques your interest. And that takes exploration. Do you know how many instruments my son played for one day? One day, because I was determined we're going to keep trying all these things till you find the things that you enjoy doing, because life was already showing itself from the time he was very young that when times were tough, they were tough. We didn't have the capacity to be doing all the fun stuff that felt like it made us smile. So when we weren't in pain, when we weren't in the hospital, when we weren't overwhelmed with living with sickle cell, we had to find out what living well without sickle cell was like, even if it was for fractions of moments. Okay? We had to figure out, well, what do you want to do when you grow up? I used to tell the medical team at the pediatric hospital where I work, I don't ever hear y'all ask what they want to be when they grow up. Can y'all please help them be thinking about that you have a life when you grow up? You will not be a child living with sickle cell disease forever. You will one day be an adult living with sickle cell disease. What are your plans? What would you like to do? What kind of things are fun? We have to begin to speak that type of life into from the time you are they are children. Right? Because that creates the desire for something more. That starts to pique their interest about passions that they have and what looks fun, what their friends are doing, what other adults are doing, how their teacher became a teacher, right? How the fireman became a fireman. So we have to have those conversations. And if nobody had those conversations with you when you were a child, it ain't never too late to have those conversations with yourself as an adult. Who's next?
And I think here is where we are beginning to develop and understand that we have to create certain strategies. So exactly what you guys are saying, these are different types of coping strategies that families can create in a healthy way to help individuals living with sickle cell and caregivers begin to see, how do you shift? You know, how do you shift from thinking about this disease from a pessimistic point of view to an optimistic point of view so that you can live longer? We never talk about, you know, how I always tell people there is a mind, body, spirit connection. And it really is something, if you don't have a different perspective of sickle cell, many times it impacts your body. That's a stressor. So, you know, understanding that there are various types of coping strategies that you can put into place to live well. What would you tell someone? Hey, if I'm having consistent chronic pain, or if I'm having consistent, I can't continue a job, but I want to work. You know, I've had to stop school. I've had to take a semester off, but I need to get back in there. What are some things that they can do to help them create this path forward?
Yeah, I just wanted to say real quick too, you know, Dima, I really appreciate what you shared, because it reminded me of something, that it's an accomplishment to get through a sickle cell crisis in itself. You've accomplished something. Take pride, be proud of yourself that you are able to to get through, to maybe make it to the store. I went to the store today after that pain. You know, I think sometimes we take for granted that we go through all these challenges and we get through it and we don't realize, wow, look at what you just accomplished. You know, you have victory over victory over victory.
Yes.
You know, and once you see that mindset you're talking about, now I'm not pessimistic. Now it's not about, it's like, wow, I'm optimistic, because now it's like, yes, if I can have all these victories in my week, yeah, maybe I had to drop out of school, but man, I have victories during that season of my life. I was able to do. And you know that if you're able to do that, then yes, you can go back. And yes, you can move forward. I think, so I just really appreciated you sharing, because I think, yes, everyone remember that, yeah, you've accomplished something just to get through it.
Sarai, that's excellent, Ed. Sarai?
Yes, also the same. Thanks, Ed, for saying that. Yes, with my sickle cell crisis, yeah, I go through downs and say, oh, I'm not gonna be nobody. Oh, with sickle cell, I'm just like, and I said, look at myself accomplished. I became this Queen Youth of Ponce, Puerto Rico. That's an accomplishment I did to show everybody that I have sickle cell and I could be anything that I want to be. I have a college degree. I have 2 college degrees from Monroe College, association bachelor's, and I accomplished that. Even when I had sickle cell crisis, getting through a final exam, getting through paper terms, and also seminar projects, as I was the captain. It was not an easy duty for me to be a captain of the senior seminar class. And then in the middle of my class that I did in the presentation, I almost got into a sickle cell crisis, and I accomplished, and the teacher gave me an A. So I said, wow, look at all that when I was back then in college. And it's just like a video game, because I was into video games so much back then. And it was like, I have to go to the next level. No, I got to complete this one. No, I'm going to stay open all night. Even my mom said, turn off the TV because you're going to school the next day. So it was an accomplishment. If it wasn't, with sickle cell, I can show others and show the rest of the people that, yes, we can accomplish anything. And even the advices I get through my godparents of the music, Candelo, Rosario, and Naomi, they always advise me all the time that, yes, you can do it if you have sickle cell. And I'm grateful that my godparents of the music, they are my supporters, always my supporters. And even they have their own thing going on, I have my own thing going on. They always know that I'm okay. They know that, hey, you got this. But everybody be cheering me on Facebook. Even I had posted my crisis, and people's like, you got this, keep going, you got this. Everybody was motivating, say, feel better, you got this.
And I love that, because, sometimes you have to ask yourself, who's in your life theater? Who's in the front row versus who's in the balcony, right? Because the people in the front row, I'm gonna need y'all to cheer me on when I can't cheer myself, right? Because we all have those days. And the people who, the naysayers, and the people who are negative, and the people who complain, and the people who do not display gratitude, I'm gonna need y'all to be up in the balcony. I love you, but I'm gonna love you from a distance, right? Because
that's how it is. That's how it is. That's how it is. I love people. I say I love you, but I gotta love you from a distance. If you're gonna put me in a sickle cell crisis, don't even be bothered to be my friend or my family or a boyfriend. I don't want you, none of that, because guess what? If you're going to motivate me to move forward, you're motivating me to move forward. If you're not going to motivate me to move forward, then get out, because I had to kick out a lot of family members off my Facebook, off my Instagram, and say, hey, you guys are not motivating me, because you guys are saying, why did I post the pictures on social media and all that? It's because I need cheers. I need supportive. I need people to cheer me on and say, hey, Sarai, you got this. Hey, Sarai, you're going to accomplish this. Hey, Sarai, you're going to get through this pain. You got this.
You used a word that is so powerful, Sarai, and thank you. You said motivators, right? A coping skills is about what motivates you, right? Yes, we can call it distractions, we can call it this, we can call it self-care, we can call it all these other things, but what's your motivators? Are they people? Are they places? Are they things? Finding what motivates you, because having crisis after crisis after crisis, trigger after trigger, interaction with the medical system after interaction with the medical system, right? That begins to weigh on you. that begins to chip away at your motivation. And if you don't have somewhere to replenish that motivation, eventually, just like your cell phone battery, it's going to die. It's not going to be, it can't recharge itself. It has to have an external energy source. Okay, don't get me started. I'm about to preach. You have to have an external energy source for your motivation when you are down and you got the red flashing and you feel inside, I'm at the point of giving up. Where are you going to plug in? What does that look like for you? Dima, go ahead.
That was great. I wanted to really get to Velvet's question, which was how do we, gather the coping skills? The coping skills that I use right now is I have a gratitude journal. I have a vision board. We sickle cell warriors, we're always assessing our life. And sometimes when we assess, it can be in a negative way. But if we write down our goals and write down Habakkuk, 2:2, write it down, make it plain. And, it just, once we write down our goals and put our gratitude, what we're thankful for in a journal and able to assess it, we'll be able to internally, with the motivators that are external, we can also internally help ourselves as well. So that's what I do. Because, you may not make it. I didn't get my bachelor's degree till I was like 34, but I got my master's when I was 35. I didn't, become this Alvin Ailey dancer, but hey, I won a couple of pageants. So there's things that you can put out, not only in the atmosphere, but in your face to remind you who you are and whose you are.
That's right.
To combat this terrible disease.
And that's one of the things that I wanted to make sure that we told people. What is something tangible? It's great to have all this ethereal stuff, but what is something tangible that you can apply to your life right here, right today, and say, hey, I can do a vision board. I just need me some magazines, some scissors, a board, and I need to get to cutting. Something like that. So that way, you have something tangible that's in your face that you can see. I tell people, put up motivational sayings. I used to do that all the times. I would put up motivational sayings around my room when I was in college, just to say, you know what? Yeah, I can do this. This is where I'm going, so that I knew for myself, what was I thinking? A lot of times, I know when people are going through pain changes you. We don't talk about how pain literally changes how your brain operates. And so having that type of tangible in your face, I can see it, it pulls you back into a different lane. And that is so very important. Some of the other coping strategies that I tell people about are breathing exercises. People use yoga. People sometimes use different type of meditation techniques. I know people who they look for ways to reduce stress. They take self-assessments. And if something is stressing me, if I know this one thing is a trigger, how do I eliminate bad habits? It takes 30 days to undo something that you have done. So you have to be conscious, the consciousness of this is a bad habit that's getting me into trouble. I used to tell one of our college students, she wanted to go out when she went to college, and her mother called me and she says, she's keep getting in these crises. And I said, okay, tell me what she's doing. Well, she was going out every weekend. And I said, well, let me help you. Maybe she should get with a roommate that may have some other type of unique needs. Doesn't have to be sickle cell. She found someone who had type 2 diabetes. They roomed together. Why? Because they both had unique needs and they understood we can't do all that. And so having someone else who will buy into your vision, buy into your dream, who will invest in you is priceless. And they invested in one another. We're not going to do this because we got to understand our limitations. And based on my limitation, this is what we can do. This is what we cannot do, but we're doing it together. And you see people do that quite a bit. And so I just want to make sure that we can give people and give caregivers and parents tangible things that they can use as coping strategies, so that once people are in the thick of it, you know what I'm saying? When you're in the thick of it, you don't think about a lot of stuff because you're in the thick of it. You have that moment. But when you come out of that moment, hey, let me get back on this. Ed, you had something? Kelly.
Yeah, so I want to thank Dima, Sabrai, and thank you for sharing that. And I want you all to know that you are leaders. And what I mean by that is you inspire others to push on. Not only people with sickle cell anemia, but caregivers and other people who are looking from the outside in, because they see that you are going through this crisis, but then when you go through the crisis, you coming out on top and accomplishing so many things. You know what I'm saying? And one thing that my mom always told me is keep your eye on the prize. No matter what you do, keep your eyes on the prize. If you set a goal, yeah, there's going to be obstacles and all this other stuff, but you keep pushing, keep your feet moving. And that's what I live by every day. I have tattoos on me, and that's my way of, every time I look in the mirror, that is a reminder every time. Keep your eye on the prize, speak positive to self, speak things into existence. You know, these are the things that a lot of people don't realize, you know, when they're going through the crisis, because they're in pain. But you have to understand, just like Chadwick Boseman, for example, you know, everyone, you know, he's the Black Panther and all this other stuff, but he's going through his own personal struggle. But to show your resilience and show how you could come out of a situation like that is unbelievable to me. And that I view that as a real life superhero. So you're inspiring people or little kids with sickle cell anemia, little kids who are taking care of maybe a single parent with sickle cell. You all are the force that's pushing this movement for sickle cell.
I love that you brought that up, because just living with sickle cell itself makes you a role model, whether we want to or not, right? Whether that was your choice or not. But the reality is that somebody's could be watching you. The reality is that the impact that you have on other families and other individuals living with sickle cell disease is significant, because everybody's looking for someone they can watch to say, okay, if they did it, so can I, right? And sometimes that's not easily found, but when they find it, you might not even know you are that person, right? The other piece is, you know, if you're a caregiver, begin to instill those things into your child now when they're young, so that that normalizes the way that they think about life, the way that they think about challenges. You're absolutely right, Kelly. Keeping your eyes on the prize. There's so many distractions, you know, that come our way, and that if we look to the left or to the right for too long, we're gonna look, right? We might be distracted by them, but if we look for too long, we take our eyes off of what our ultimate goal is, and we lose sight of how to get there in the most healthy way. Going back to something that Velvet said, and I'm so glad that you brought it up. What are the tangible things that we can do? I just wanted to make sure I said it, that Sarai talked about an app that you can download, an affirmation app. So definitely look in the App Store. I also put in chat that if you're not sure what a vision board is, of course you can Google it. You can go to Pinterest, and I'm sure there's an app for that as well. So you can take a look at that. But then also, when you talk about some of the non-medicinal strategies, okay, let's talk about, we know that there are medicinal strategies, and Lord knows there's probably nobody on this call that, I'm gonna say it because this is our show, better not be nobody on this call that thinks that you can live with sickle cell, that everybody, that there should be no access to opioid management, right? It's the balance. I say it all the time. It's like baking a cake. You need a lot of different ingredients in different amounts in order to make your cake rise. What you don't need is just one ingredient, right? So you want to make sure that you have a balance of different things, but understand how they work. You talked about breathing, Velvet. There is a lack of understanding that when you open the chest cavity and you allow yourself to take these deeper breaths and you bring oxygen in, that it changes some of the way that your body operates. It changes your clarity of thought, right? We know we already struggle with our oxygen levels as people living with sickle cell disease, right? So get some more oxygen in, right? When we talk about things like meditating allows you to, when you learn, again, I struggle with meditating because my brain feels like it never turns off. I know there's some folk out there like me, right? But when you, whether it's meditating or prayer, the goal is to block everything out and to center yourself to find a focus on the positive things. And when you start to create boundaries and barriers for other thoughts, right? Now they can't just walk up in your yard. First, you might start out with just a gate. Then you might start out, with a taller gate. Then you might end up with a wall that says, hey, those thoughts, those actions, those unhealthy things ain't allowed in here. So the more that you begin to meditate, the more that you learn how to center yourself to block some of those thoughts out, the more you are training your brain to say, no entry. You can't come in here, not today, not tomorrow, right? And when they do creep in, it's easier to get those thoughts back out because then you recenter yourself. Now, none of these things are easy. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it is. It is a discipline. It is part of the self-care. It is part of training our brain how to operate. My son, when he was small, he used to get in trouble. And if I used to get calls, I didn't know if it was a call because of his sickle cell or it was a call because of his behavior. When he would get home, I would say, now you know that that's not right. Why would you do that? And he would say, well, my brain told me to do it. And I would, well, you better talk back to your brain and tell your brain that that's going to get you a whooping because it don't matter if it's a person or it's a you that's telling you it's okay to have those thoughts and to act upon those negative thoughts. Talk back to yourself. I ain't going to turn it into it, but sometimes you got to encourage yourself. Sometimes you got to tell yourself to shape up. Sometimes you got to say, I'm not going to buy into that thought. Right? And then begin to practice those other strategies that we've talked about. Go back to your vision board. Write down 3 things that you are grateful for. When you cannot find anything when it starts to feel like life is overwhelming, you have to be able to center yourself around thoughts that bring a positive reflection of who you are and where you can go in this life. Dima, you wanted to add a resource and then to Velvet.
Is it okay if I add those resources?
Yeah.
I want to make sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
you put them in there, but then say them out loud for those who may not.
Okay. So there's 2 resources that I believe that will help individuals with sickle cell. One is a book called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And along with the book, he has assessments, gratitude, journaling, habit trackers, everything that Velvet was mentioning. There's PDFs that will go along with the book. The other is the Charisma Study. The Charisma Study is a study designed for people with sickle cell disease to have a health coach. The health coaches cheer you on during the first 12 weeks of the study. It's a year-long study, and you'll be provided sickle cell education, also techniques, cognitive behavioral techniques, and of course the health coach. So those are 2 great resources. And I love the whole health coach aspect because the health coach sometimes you'll be paired up with someone who also has sickle cell disease and you'll be able to encourage each other. So you can go to Google Charisma it's the University of Pittsburgh that is following up with that study.
So, right, we did have a question in this chat, and they asked, what is total life changes?
Oh my God, it's like CBD something. And basically they have the NutriBurst that I drink every single day is to either lose weight or lose a couple of pounds. So I've been losing a couple of weights, and they have the tea. Also, Demon's on it too. So we both on it. And
Keep talking, but I'm gonna have to, one disclaimer, Sickle Cell Foundation of Minnesota does not promote any products. We appreciate you sharing, and I want you to keep, no, I want you to keep sharing. I'm just gonna put that disclaimer, and I won't speak for Velvet, but I'm sure she's saying the same thing.
Same thing for supporters of families with sickle cell disease.
Yeah, but it keeps me my energy go during the day and everything, because I'll be falling asleep and stuff. So it keeps me going, my energy. That's all I could say. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I
No,
didn't
don't
want to
apologize.
mention that either. I wanted to be very careful before, but I use that as well.
No, I don't think that there's anything wrong with sharing what you do personally. And I think that supplements, and I think that there are a number of things hitting the market. There are things that my son and I use that on this platform would not be appropriate for me to expound upon as a leader in the community. However, it is important that we start talking amongst ourselves to share what we've done, to share what we've used. We can't just keep it. We found something, share it with people. I just needed to put that disclaimer out there. Who else? Because supplements, I mean, let's be honest. Again, I just got done talking about baking your cake, right? All of you need different things, and everybody's cake ain't gonna look the same, right? Everybody's pain is not the same. Everybody's experiences. We've talked about your support system isn't the same. We know that, some people have more pain than others. Velvet, you are getting to a question that I think is very relevant, that this person has been waiting to see how we would respond. So go ahead.
So I know that someone had talked about chronic pain, and they just wanted to know, what are some things that you all do to help with chronic pain? I know everybody, as Ray said, we are all, and Dr. Wanda, she says we're snowflakes. No snowflake is the same. And so everyone has different regimens. Everyone uses different holistic medication, which includes natural and Western meds. And so they just wanted to know, what were some things that you could share with them? Not that we want to give any medical advice, because we are not treating physicians, but there are things that you may be able to tell them that they can talk with their physician about to see if something of this magnitude would be beneficial for their loved one.
Okay, can I go? Yes, sorry. So I created a ritual. I have a morning ritual and a nighttime ritual, and it's been working for me. So my morning ritual consists of, okay, the TLC tea or the coffee, the NutriBurst that Sarai was talking about, some type of prayer, meditation, exercise, stretching. Very important to stretch out your body, even though you are in pain. And then my nightly ritual consists of oxbrita and some type of just some type of melatonin to help me go to sleep. When I'm in pain, like seriously in pain, I take oxy. Sometimes I go into the dilaudid, which is I try not to take a lot because I have people around me. I have a child and I want to make sure I hear what's going on, know my surroundings. But I also have heating pads. I go to Dollar Tree and I get those lidocaine patches. And so I wouldn't recommend this for people with sensitive skin, but I have CBD cream and I put it on the area, and then on top, I put the lidocaine patch. So the patch and the CBD kind of goes and seeps into the bone where the pain is really hitting. And then on top of that, I have the heating pad, but I would not recommend that if you have sensitive skin. So those are my tricks, and it's been working thus far because I haven't been in the hospital since January of 2020.
Well, first of all, that is fantastic. That is fantastic. And I'm going to come back to you, Sarai, in just a second, because Ed, I know you had mentioned that you wanted to answer one of the questions that is in the Q&A. And by the way, keep pushing those questions through. We want to hear from you all before we wrap up. We know that we are over our time. We thank you for those of us who have been able to stay with us. We are going to go a little bit further as long as you all continue to have questions.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, yeah, first, I mean, this person, Linda, said that your husband currently is going through a major sickle cell, crisis right now in the hospital. And I just wanted to say, I'm sorry to hear that. And I know that we all, I think probably have had experiences where we've been blindsided by a sickle cell crisis to something that really brings us down, physically, and not even emotionally. And so I understand that. And I just want to encourage you and say that, that I'm trusting and I'm praying that you will both get through it, that he will get through it, and you will get to the other side. And that will be another accomplishment that you'll be able to go through. And I think kind of what you're saying, what everyone was saying here about different ways of coping. Yeah, I mean, heating pads are important to me. I mean, I use, I think massaging the area with some kind of deep tissue like oil or Bengay or something like that, having someone to massage that area. It's so soothing, things like that. But I also too know that even if it's not to your highest level of pain, it's just chronic pain. I want to encourage you saying, I sometimes know that I'm not 100%, I can't always be 100% and get through my day. So sometimes I just do the best that I can with what kind of energy level I have and make adjustments, as I can. But, and I actually had some sickle cell pain this weekend. And sickle cell is one of the challenges that I face with sickle cell is that I'm getting hearing loss because of sickle cell, and it's affecting my inner ear, and I'm deaf now in my left ear, and we're trying to keep the hearing in my right ear here. But I've been having some low hearing in the last few days. Even now my hearing has been affected because of what sickle cell is doing to my inner ear. And I know I'm not operating 100%, but that's okay. I'm showing up, I'm moving forward. I do the best that I can with what I have. And it's amazing too that how supportive, like when I tell people at work, I'm having a low hearing day, could you repeat that? Or I'm telling people at the checkout, I couldn't quite hear you, I'm having low. It's amazing how supportive people have been. I think talking about those out of the box supporters, when I'm able to be transparent and tell people what's going on, not feel like it's all my own struggle, I am so blessed by people's encouragement and just support and their willingness to help, help me in any way they can. So yeah, there you go.
That's excellent. That's just everything that you said there about, the non-traditional support system, right? When finding a safe space, a healthy space, and recognizing that other people who may not even live with the disease may still be a part of that support network. Sarai, go ahead. You're on mute, sweetie.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was sharing it on Facebook on my laptop. So I will say for the healing part is like every morning, my affirmations turn on 8 o'clock in the morning, and my motivational app too, that I set an alarm from 8 o'clock. Then I set an alarm again for 2:30 in the afternoon, just to remind myself that yes, I can do this, and the rituals, yeah, I could do that. Also, basically, if I have time, I read my daily devotionals, especially devotionals. And, because since my home is a Christian home, and especially, my family are believers of God, we read, we do the same, we pray, we read, especially in the morning. I put K-Love, the Christian station, just to motivate my day, even if it's on the flat screen TV or in my room, to keep me going and say, hey, I know the higher power, God, got my back all the time, and making sure he knows that, that I'm good, that I'm well. And even I have my days, like there's some days I'll be blaming on myself, on my parents, and say, yo, why you guys gave me that disease? Why you guys gave me that? I'll be blaming my parents for the years, all the years, and I still blame them till today's day. And I said, nah, I have to learn to stop blaming my parents and learn that God put me in a purpose of this sickle cell, maybe to help others, or maybe to help the children, the next generation upcoming, and say that, you guys are resilient. We are resilient with our illness, no matter what happens in life. And especially at nighttime, I usually put my sentimental candles and then watch a good show or movie just for me to relax. Especially I'm in pain, I use heating pads and also heating blanket. If I get super cold, I use a heating blanket because, I live by the water in part of the Bronx, and I get cold all the time by the bridge. And I said, oh no, we need to put on a heating blanket. Even in the summertime, people say, you crazy? I'm like, no. Also, especially I have tea. I usually drink tea. I drink my medication, the ibuprofen. If it don't work, I said in a couple of hours, we're going to the hospital. I even order an Uber or a Lyft, and it takes me straight to the hospital, and they take me in like 3 seconds, like even to triage, to part of the emergency room, and I get my treatments, and that's all.
I think that it is, the finding what motivates you, right? We've been talking about that. Velvet said something earlier that I really want to make sure that that we're going to kind of wrap up on, and it's about finding someone that you can talk to. So kind of also finding that safe space. For some, that might be a pastor. For some, that might be someone who is skilled in helping you to process, right? We all have lots of people we can vent to. For goodness sake, there's so much venting going on social media. I'm gonna encourage you to think twice about that one. But this is more than a venting, right? This is about finding who are the healthy individuals that can help you process what you're feeling. Okay, so let's talk about just real quick, and Velvet, please chime in about what it means to have a therapist, what it means to actually seek therapy and someone that you can talk to regularly. Listen, in full disclosure, I have a therapist. Matter of fact, I usually see him every other Tuesday, and I was like, ooh, I wish today was that Tuesday. There was a time I had 2 therapists, because there was so much going on. I didn't know if I was coming or going. I wanted to, listen, y'all, I wanted to be like, well, the Sickle Cell Foundation is wonderful. Thank you, Lord, for blessing me with it. And it's now time to shut shop. And I was like, okay, that can't be the option. Let me figure out, I got to process what I'm feeling. And I had to go outside of my comfort zone. And I didn't just stumble upon someone. It took me time to find someone. That's why I had 2, because I wasn't sure which one I was going to keep. But I needed to find someone that was right for me. I needed to find a good fit. And before I could find a therapist, I found other elders in the community. I found people with more wisdom than myself, somebody who had been through something themselves or was blessed to have the wisdom that could help get me through whatever season I was in, right? So Velvet, let's talk a little bit about that. And then I want to hear from you all, and any questions that you all have about that as well.
Before I say that, Dr. Sherney asked the question. She said, I can't see a button to unmute. She has her hand raised. So I told her I would let you know that. So just FYI.
I got you, Dr. Wanda, just a moment.
What I want to say, for so long in the African American community, we have not been free enough in our own selves to seek therapy. We have had all types of different ideas. Our therapy used to be the church, and for many of us, it's still the church. I tell people all the time, it's okay to have Jesus and a therapist. Sickle cell is a medical trauma. We don't call it a medical trauma, but it is a medical trauma. And from the time of diagnosis, it changes the core of who you believe your family will be. The diagnosis itself changes you as soon as they say it. And it's so important that we tell people it is okay to go and have family therapy. It's okay to have individual therapy. It's okay to have chronic disease therapy. There are people who specialize in chronic disease, whether it's sickle cell, cancer, lupus, Alzheimer's, something else. It is okay. And so I want to encourage people, you know, one of the things that I told people, I said, I believe that when you are first diagnosed, part of your team should be a mental health specialist to start you off with that journey, because this can be complicated. Sickle cell is a journey, and everybody's journey is so different. Sometimes you need people to help you process in a constructive way, in a sober way, because when we are very emotional, when we are emotionally spent, sometimes we make decisions that may not be really in the best interest of our families. We hear things certain ways that maybe that's not the way it actually was coming. And so going to therapy can help you in many different ways to process even certain types of medical decisions that you have to make. And so I always encourage everyone in the sickle cell community. When I was a QMRP, we had a therapist. Once a week, we met with them about all the clients we had to see. And so most social workers will tell you they also have a therapist. They'll tell you they get with their social work friends, and we have therapy. We don't call them therapy sessions. We have rap sessions. We have debriefings. We call it everything, probably but therapy. But we know it's part of therapy. And so I just encourage everyone to not think of therapy as something that is negative, but just like you take care of your body, your mind is part of your body. You need to see about your mind, because the way I explain to people is there are things that can take you down rabbit holes that you don't want to go down. And so for caregivers, especially when you are caregiving for someone and you continue to do that without an outlet, you're going to do one or two things. And I'm not sure either one of them are very healthy. And so it's really, really important to find someone that you can have a safe space with, as Ray said, and that you can have a conversation just about what you feel. Sometimes for parents, I can't talk about anybody else, but for parents, there are inner struggles that we go through. And we may not be able to say it to anybody else, because somebody else probably say, that is so mean, that's harsh, that's cruel. But there are inner struggles that we go through. And Ray can tell you, we have something called the Sickle Cell Sorority Club that we are a part of. And it's mamas that get together, and we're able to have very frank, hard conversations. But it helps us to have people who are sober as a sounding board and say, don't do it that way, do something different. And so I just encourage everyone to have a therapist, get you a life coach. We are not supposed to be loners. Hear me. We were never created to be an island. We were always created to have connectivity. And that's what we need, to connect, and connect in safe ways, connect in safe spaces, but connect so that you can find yourself healthy.
That is so good. I have promoted the one and only Dr. Wanda Witten-Sherney to a panelist because her wisdom is profound. And let me just say it, so Dr. Wanda Witten-Sherney, her father, Dr. Witten, is the founder of Sickle Cell Disease Association of America. And she continues in this community, giving back in so many ways. I could not list them all here, but her wisdom and her practice, even as a practicing physician, is something that should be heard. So I promoted her because I can do that. Dr. Wanda, go ahead.
And Ray, I appreciate you so much. And I didn't really realize the format of the meeting, that you needed to be a panelist to be able to speak. So, you know, I'm honored that I'm gonna make my comments really brief because I'm not an official a panelist.
You are, now you are.
Okay, but the thing is that whole issue of snowflakes, I think is so important. So I'm glad Velvet brought it up. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a general pediatrician by training, but I spent 30 years in the Comprehensive Sickle Cell Clinic at Children's Hospital providing outpatient care. And one of my areas of interest is coping strategies. So this is fascinating to me. I think this is fabulous. And you know, a lot of times when you look online and you see toolkits, it's a bunch of words. And a toolkit should really have tools. And I see people talking about tools. So just a couple of things that I want to mention. One is that positive journaling. My goodness, you know, if you do that, and then when you're in a bad space, you go back and read some of the things that have been good, that can really change. And I want to make sure everybody knows about endorphins, you know, because, you know, people kind of act like these things are black magic or something, but no. You can bring out endorphins, which, and some people call it endogenous morphine, you know, so you can bring out hormones that are inside your body to help relieve your pain. And breath is really an important way of doing that. And if you start using abdominal breathing, that's the way infants, fetuses, before they're born, they're using abdominal breathing. So if you start using your abdominal muscles, then that kind of makes you feel like, it gives you that sense that you're back in your mother's womb, because that's how you would breathe when you were young, right? Before you were even born. And I also want to mention turmeric. You know, I don't know, I joined a little late and I don't know, but it's anti-inflammatory and you can get it. You can make turmeric milk and there's all kinds of videos. And I tell you, when I make turmeric milk with the coconut and everything, I feel like I've had a glass of wine when I drink it. You know, it's that relaxing, but you can also get it with pills and you have to have black pepper in it. And the last two things that I want to mention is this book that Dr. Carolyn Raleigh sent to me, and it's about breath, and I'll put it in the chat, but it's How to Breathe, and it gives you different exercises. And I just find when I get in a stressful situation, if I just pause and do a few deep breaths, it can really just change the whole circumstance. And then the last thing that I want to mention is this tool here, which, and rituals. Whoever brought that up about rituals, I think that rituals are so important because it just gives you a sense of balance in your life, right? So every morning I found that when I walk down the steps, I'm stiff. You know, I'm 64 years old. I'm like, this isn't supposed to be happening yet, you know? So every morning before I get out of bed, I massage my entire body with this instrument. It feels good, you know, and then I do stretching exercises. And then when I get up and walk down the stairs, I don't feel the tenderness and the kind of just stiffness. So that makes a really big
What's that thing called? Because I'm gonna start now before I get to about 60.
Okay, so yeah, for sure. And it is called the Stick, the only flexible massager. And I think if you just Google that, and I'll put the website in the chat, intracell.net/inst.pdf. I'll put that in, and I'll also put this book because Dr. Raleigh sent it to me, and I think she's one of the most calm people on the face of the earth, and I'm one of the most hyper people. And so, you know, when somebody says something that upsets me, I take a few deep breaths before I answer. So it's kind of like the counting to 10, but the additional, you know, the breathing, and I use my abdominal muscles so I can feel like I'm back in my mother's womb. So thank you so much for allowing me to make some comments.
That was amazing. That was necessary. I'm so glad that you mentioned those things, because you're right, every one of those, and then understanding the why, the value that each of those non-medicinal strategies bring, and how it really does tap it. Listen, we weren't always allowed in the hospital. We had to learn what our bodies did naturally. And in fact, we taught them so much of what they know between Blacks and Natives who were not allowed in their hospitals and getting care. We taught them the natural homeopathic things to do. So we have to return to being open-minded about all of the non-medicinal, non-Westernized strategies to take care of ourselves. Our bodies heal itself in so many instances. And so anything else we add to it should be an enhancer, not a replacement. All right.
And I think that part of the problem is that physicians a lot of times don't embrace those things. So a lot of times patients don't even want to tell the doctor that they're doing them. And just one last thing that came to me is that when Velvet was talking about the whole mental health issue, I spent a significant amount of time in therapy. And I think one of the most valuable lessons was I would say to Dr. Skirta, well, what am I supposed to do with all these feelings? And Dr. Skirta said to me, well, Wanda, the first thing you have to do is have them, you know? So I think you have to give yourself the time to feel the sadness, because if you don't, it's going to come back and haunt you in other ways, like breast cancer or, you know, other issues that come up. So having the feelings and then getting past them, I think is really important. I think Dima was saying something like that. I think that that's really important. Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
That's good. That's good. Thank you. Dima, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback off of what Velvet said, but thank you, Dr. Wanda, for joining us. That was awesome. Thank you so much. We were talking about our team of people and making sure there's a clinical social worker involved in that team. So often we think of just on our team, we just have a hematologist and that's it. And if we just have just that one hematologist, not only will get on their nerves every time we're in pain, because we only have that one person on our team, but we'll feel lonely. So we have to make sure that we understand our team is also consisting of our caretakers, CHWs, licensed clinical social workers, primary care physicians. A lot of people with sickle cell, I run into them and they say their hematologist is their primary care physician, and that's not true. They have to have a primary care physician and a hematologist to be a part of that team. So even it's also important to have a psychiatrist. Now, sometimes I must speak for myself because we're all snowflakes, but sickle cell gives me anxiety because I'm like, wait, am I going to be in pain now? Am I going to be in pain later? What's going to happen when I'm not in pain? Let me do all of my tasks now before I'm in pain tomorrow. And then it causes angst. So therefore I need to see a psychiatrist. And sometimes I may need to have a little bit of medication to kind of calm down my anxiety. And I'm just being transparent here. And I also have on my team, my husband, my son, my little 10-year-old, he walks in maybe every hour, and he'll bring me a bottle of water because he knows if mommy's hydrated, mommy's healthy. And I also have an emotional support animal. And when I notice too, when I'm in pain, she likes sleeping with me a little bit too much. Trying to curb her from doing that, but she knows when I'm in pain, and she wants to make sure that I'm okay. Here she comes down. She wants to make sure that I'm okay. And it's okay to have an emotional support animal. It's okay to have these people. It's okay to embrace these different tools and options. That's all I wanted to say.
No, that is right on. This is why, it's hard to schedule a 1-hour session, because right when you get to 1 hour, everything starts really opening up. You really get beneath the surface. That's what I feel like has happened here. Kelly, I want to close on a question to you, because when do you think that there was a point that you realized that some of what you watched, some of what you experienced, even though you didn't have the disease, but being a child caregiver and being someone who saw their mother in that level of pain, that you needed to find ways to cope? And you set goals early on because of how your mother taught you, but was there a realization that said, there's a connection between the way I grew up and what I have to do now to cope with life and to remain resilient.
Yes, I could tell you a particular time when I was, this was on my 12th birthday. And, you know, as a kid, you want toys, you want video games and all this other stuff. And unfortunately for us, you know, we didn't, we didn't come from riches or anything, you know, living off of welfare, food stamps, all that other stuff. So this particular birthday, I remember my mom, you know, she had a sickle cell crisis, but she came back home with a present and it was a yo-yo, right? So I'm excited about this yo-yo and everything like that. And I flicked it on the ground and it shattered into pieces. To a kid, that'd be devastating, you know? And I look at her, she was like, I'm so sorry, you know, that happened. And I came to the realization, I was like, you know, Mom, it's okay. I'm having a real good birthday. I'm with you, you're back home, you know? And then that stuck with me through my entire lifetime. So every time I come to an obstacle, if I fail or something like that, I always remember that moment of that yo-yo. You know what I'm saying? It's like the little things like that carries with you through a lifetime. So through my career as a Marine, you know, going to Iraq, Jordan, and Syria, and just pushing through and just saying to myself, I've been through worse situations. I've been through a worse time. I can get through this. Going through Marine Corps to being a firefighter, I've been through more difficult times. I've seen things that a lot of other people just like, oh, I can't deal with that. You know what I'm saying? And then going through, you know, my master's to my second master's to where I'm at right now as a project manager for a consulting firm. And all these things led up from that moment of that yo-yo. You know what I'm saying? It's just like not looking at all the negative things. The yo-yo is broken, shattered into a million pieces, you know, but being in the moment with your loved one is that changing moment for me.
Wow. Wow. That's profound. I'm going to go around 30 seconds to each person to give your final words of encouragement and smiling through the pain, not the absence of pain, but how to persevere with a resilient heart and mind. Let's start with you, Ed, and then Dima, Sarai, Dr. Wanda. I want you to add just a few more things because you got so much wisdom there, and then we'll end with Miss Velvet.
Yeah, I just want to encourage everybody saying, you know, that yes, there is an other side. I remember we talked about that. And just remember, and remember, there's always hope that you can get through that and that you've already come through many, many victories. You already have. And there's other victories you will have in the future.
Dima?
So I just want to say that pain is the hallway that leads to greatness. So I feel like every crisis that you endure is just a pathway to what's greater and your best is yet to come.
Sarai?
My encouragement to everybody is like from Paul in the Bible, that no matter what happens, you still, you know, have to win the race no matter what, you keep running. So that's what we need to do as sickle cell warriors, that we keep running no matter what happens in life. And also my encouragement, I always use this verse all the time, Philippians 4:13, that I can do all things through Christ strengthen me. I know, don't make me preach.
Thank you. Dr. Wanda?
Yeah, I think I would close by just saying, I think that these kinds of sessions are so important, you know, and I find it very valuable. And I'll just put in a shameless plug for a toolkit that I developed that, you know, it's a backpack and it has an incentives barometer and a thermometer and a pill sorter and Hertz Nazir's coloring book and some markers and a blanket. and a passport to health where you record everything so that when you go to the doctor, I'm sure most of the warriors on the call now are already activated and informed, but to help other patients to know what's your routine hemoglobin, what is a retic count, what the questions to ask, and so forth. So if there's anybody on the call who has not gotten that toolkit, I would be happy to ship one to you. And all you have to do is reach out. I'll put my email in the chat, and just send me a note saying I'd like a toolkit, and I will put it in the mail to you. So, and just thank you so much for including me. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're gonna do a separate one with just you because we got things to talk about. Yep, I'm putting it out. It's in the air now. But y'all heard that she's gonna put her email, Dr. Wanda Witten-Sherney, in the chat box so that you all can send her a message stating that you want one. Don't just put it in the chat because she's busy. You're gonna send her a message. All right, Miss Velvet.
Well, I want to say first, thank you all to all our panelists for getting on and telling your story. The one thing people don't understand is that when you tell your story, you give people access to who you are and what you are about, and it gives them an opportunity to join your cause. And so thank you so much for telling your story, because now people know that sickle cell matters. It has always mattered, but when we tell our story, we put a light on it and we say, we're here, we're not going anywhere. Hear us loud, hear us roar. Sickle cell matters. The second thing I want to say is that, I believe that you don't have to walk alone. You choose to walk alone. And there are many people within our community that you can connect with, that you can reach out to, but you don't have to walk this journey by yourself. And that's what I want people to know. You are not alone. There are hundreds of thousands of millions of us from around the world that are living, thriving, and surviving. And you can reach out, and I guarantee you, there are people within our community that will embrace you. So again, you don't have to walk alone. And thank you, Ray, for having me. I have had a wonderful time. And
we're way over, y'all.
I want to thank everyone for joining tonight. Thank you all.
So my last words to everyone, first and foremost, is thank you for joining us, of course. But I use a saying that my mother told me when I was in a very dark place when my son was younger. And she said, the time of planting is never the time of harvest. And when she said that, what she was saying is that you got to put the right seeds in the ground and keep watering them in order to get what you are hoping for, what you're looking for. It's not always going to just show up, and there is a tomorrow. But if you didn't plant what you need in the today, it's going to take longer to get to your tomorrow. So many people have said it. This is not the time for us to give up. The community is coming together, but know that the time of planting is not the time of harvest. Keep watering those seeds. It may feel like that the dirt is and the ground is bone dry, but keep watering it and keep looking for the harvest that you need in your life. All right. I'm just going to finalize everything by just making sure that you all can see all of our sessions from our Living Sickle Smart, again, are kept in our I'm multitasking, y'all, while I'm doing this, and my computer is acting slow. But all of our previous videos are in our YouTube repository. Just a reminder that you can find them there. Also, be sure, our goal is to have 101 subscribers to our YouTube channel by January 1st, 2022. So if you haven't subscribed, and I see y'all's names, so I see that you haven't, I'm asking you to go to our YouTube station and subscribe. And then our Eventbrite channel, so that you know when we are having new live sessions for Sickle Smart. And then we talked a little bit about it, but guess what? We had a couple of weeks ago, we had a session on navigating primary care. Why? Because as we talked about, primary care is so important. That session is available. We also had a recent session, oops, think I skipped one. I want to make sure I got it in there. Hang on. Please stop. Oh, maybe I don't have it. Okay, the navigating primary care. We had a session also earlier this month that is also in our repository, planning for your future. We spoke with educators, and one of our educators is actually the mother of a sickle cell warrior. We talked about individualized education plans, individualized health plans, and 504 plans, so that you can better learn how to navigate your child's educational needs. We also made sure that we have listed in our information how to get the sickle cell resource package from Be the Match. Just go to sicklecellconnect.com. Be sure to sign up if you are not a warrior, but you're someone in the community that loves a warrior, or you care about the outcomes. There's a couple of things I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to sign up to join the Be the Match registry. There is a cure for some with sickle cell disease, but the cure is only as good as the number of matches that they can find. And guess what? Those matches are for us. They need to be with us. We are that match, okay? And then again, if you want to lend a hand, lend an arm, donate blood. We are in unprecedented times with the shortage of blood. What we don't need is to need a life-saving transfusion and the right match not be available. Once again, if it's for us, it needs to be with us. We are the us, y'all. So we got to show up. And yes, you can donate if you have the trait. In Minnesota, American Red Cross and Memorial Blood Centers are our major blood banks. So you can contact them to get more information on scheduling your donation. Thank you again for joining us. And until next time, we want to say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever it is that you and your family celebrate. We wish you the best. Make sure you're taking some time out for yourself in self-care. That's not selfish. And then use some of the strategies that we talked about. The same way you have to exercise your muscle, exercise that mind, get a gratitude journal, do a vision board, begin to write goals for yourself. Do those things that are for you, that are tangible, that you can look at when the day just doesn't seem as bright. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. We are so appreciative of you, and we'll see you next time. Panelists, please stay on as we stop recording.